What if I told you that the man who once claimed to drain the swamp is not only knee-deep in it, but is also being controlled by shadowy elites who pull his strings like a marionette? Buckle up, because this exposé will reveal how Donald Trump, the self-proclaimed billionaire, is nothing more than a puppet for the ultra-wealthy and powerful. Donald Trump's presidency is a spectacle unlike any other, a reality TV star turned commander-in-chief, promising to fight for the forgotten men and women of America. But behind the bravado and the tweets lies a darker truth. Trump is not the master of his own destiny. He's a pawn in a high-stakes game played by the richest and most powerful individuals on the planet. This video will peel back the curtain on Trump's recent actions, exposing how they align perfectly with the interests of the elite. From tax cuts for the wealthy to deregulation that benefits corporations, we'll explore how Trump's presidency has been a golden ticket for the 1%. In 2017, Trump signed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, a piece of legislation that was marketed as a boon for the middle class. But let's do the math. While the average American family saved around $1,600 a year, corporations and the ultra-wealthy reaped billions. According to the Tax Policy Center, the top 1% of earners received 20% of the total tax benefits, while the bottom 60% got just 12%. Imagine a billionaire throwing a lavish party and inviting the middle class to pick up the crumbs. That's exactly what happened. Companies like Amazon paid $0 in federal taxes in 2018, while small businesses struggled to stay afloat. Trump's tax cuts were a blatant handout to his wealthy friends, and he played his part perfectly. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was a masterstroke of economic manipulation. By slashing the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%, Trump and his allies in Congress delivered a windfall to big businesses. But the benefits for ordinary Americans were fleeting. The law also capped the state and local tax, or SALT deduction, which disproportionately affected taxpayers in high-cost states like California and New York. Consider the case of a middle-class family in New York. Under the new law, they might save $1,600 in federal taxes, but they could lose thousands more due to the SALT deduction cap. Meanwhile, a billionaire like Warren Buffett saw his tax bill drop by millions. The long-term consequences of these tax cuts are even more alarming. The Congressional Budget Office, or CBO, projected that the law would add $1.9 trillion to the national debt over a decade. Who will pay for this debt? Future generations of Americans, while the wealthy enjoy their tax breaks today. Trump's administration rolled back over 100 environmental regulations, including rules on clean air, water, and emissions. Who benefits? Big oil coal companies and industrial giants. For example, the rollback of the Clean Power Plan saved the fossil fuel industry $33 billion in compliance costs. Meanwhile, the average American is left breathing dirtier air and drinking contaminated water. In 2020, Trump's EPA weakened regulations on mercury emissions, a move that directly benefited coal-fired power plants. Mercury is a toxic substance linked to brain damage in children. But hey, as long as the CEOs of energy companies are happy, right? The deregulation frenzy wasn't limited to the environment. Trump's administration also rolled back consumer protections, workplace safety standards, and financial regulations. The repeal of the Dodd-Frank Act's Volcker Rule, for instance, allowed banks to engage in risky speculative investments once again. Imagine a small-town family investing their life savings in a local bank, only to see it collapse because of reckless Wall Street gambling. This is the kind of risk that Trump's deregulation policies have reintroduced into the financial system. The long-term impact of deregulation is a return to the pre-2008 financial crisis era, where unchecked corporate greed led to economic collapse. By dismantling these safeguards, Trump has set the stage for another potential meltdown, with ordinary Americans once again bearing the brunt of the fallout. When the pandemic hit, Trump signed the CARES Act, a $2.2 trillion relief package. Sounds great, right? Wrong. While small businesses and everyday Americans struggled to get their hands on stimulus checks, large corporations feasted on taxpayer money. The Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP, was supposed to help small businesses, but over $500 million went to publicly traded companies, including some with ties to Trump's inner circle. Companies like Ruth's Chris Steakhouse and Shake Shack received millions in loans while mom-and-pop shops were left empty-handed. And let's not forget the $1.7 billion in tax breaks for wealthy real estate investors, a group Trump happens to belong to. Coincidence? Hardly. The CARES Act was riddled with loopholes that allowed the wealthy to exploit the system. For example, the law included a provision that allowed businesses to deduct expenses paid for with forgiven PPP loans, effectively giving them a double benefit. Consider a wealthy real estate investor who received a $10 million PPP loan. Not only did they get the loan forgiven, but they also deducted the expenses paid with that loan, reducing their taxable income by another $10 million. This kind of double dipping was perfectly legal under the CARES Act, thanks to Trump and his allies in Congress. The long-term impact of the COVID-19 bailout is a widening wealth gap. While ordinary Americans struggled to make ends meet, the wealthy used the relief package to further enrich themselves. This is not just a scandal, it's a betrayal of the American people. Trump's most enduring legacy may be his appointments to the Supreme Court. With the confirmations of Justices Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett, Trump solidified a conservative majority that will shape American law for decades. But who really benefits? The wealthy and powerful, who now have a friendly court to uphold their interests. The Supreme Court's decision in Citizens United already gave corporations unprecedented power in elections. With Trump's appointees, we can expect more rulings that favor big business over everyday Americans. It's a long-term investment for the elite, and Trump delivered. The Supreme Court's conservative majority has already shown its willingness to side with corporate interests. In cases like Janus v. AFSCME, the court dealt a blow to labor unions, making it harder for workers to organize and fight for better wages and conditions. Imagine a factory worker trying to unionize to demand fair pay. Thanks to Trump's Supreme Court appointees, that worker now faces an uphill battle, while the factory owner enjoys the backing of a pro-business judiciary. The long-term impact of Trump's Supreme Court appointments is a judiciary that prioritizes corporate interests over individual rights. This shift will have far-reaching consequences, from workers' rights to environmental protections, and it will take decades to undo the damage. Donald Trump may have sold himself as a maverick, a disruptor, a man of the people, but the truth is far more sinister. He's a puppet, and his strings are being pulled by the richest and most powerful individuals in the world. From tax cuts to deregulation to pandemic bailouts, Trump's actions have consistently benefited the elite at the expense of ordinary Americans. So the next time you hear Trump's bombastic rhetoric, remember this: behind every tweet, every speech, and every policy decision, there's a shadowy figure pulling the strings, and they're laughing all the way to the bank. What do you think? Is Trump a puppet for the rich, or is there more to the story? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more exposés that will make you question everything you thought you knew. Thanks for watching.